Thanks for joining us today. Perhaps I could turn first to Simon so you can tell us a bit about UTS and your role there.
Sure. Good day. I'm Simon Watson. I'm the Senior Manager of Global Mobility Programs and have responsibility for sending students overseas and, of course, receiving the ones in. And I work very closely with a team of around 10 that are responsible for that.
Thank you. And over to you, Yara.
Thank you, Anthony. Hi, everyone. My name is Yara Vasina, and I'm Manager of Global Programs at UTS International. So currently, I oversee outbound global exchange and global short programs. I also teach at UTS Business School. My subjects include management and marketing, and I'm really excited to be able to enhance our future leaders' journey. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're here today to talk about internationalisation at home, which I know is something that UTS has done a lot of work in. And I wanted to ask you just a simple first question, really. First, Simon, why do you think internationalisation at home is important?
Well, I think it's something that's vital for all students, and the university overall does consider this to be one of its 4 key graduate attributes. We would like our students to be globally competent and prepared when they step out of their university studies. So it's a vital part of what we do. We're a fairly large institution. We have around 42,000 students, and we have, in a normal year, we would have around 10,000 international students on campus. So kind of creating a harmonious environment, I think, is one of the key factors as well. Sydney's a pretty global city, similar to London and the southeast of England. So it's around 2/3 of our residents or their parents were born overseas. So it's a pretty global place already. So building competencies around understanding how other people think, how they work, how they interact is really important. And we're aware that most of our graduates will normally, within the first 5 to 10 years of their working life, end up working internationally, particularly in the Asia Pacific region. So preparing students for those kind of experiences and providing them those capabilities is really vital. So that's why we do on-campus activities, and we have a big target of sending 50% of our students globally. So I suppose that's the whole driver for what we do.
Thank you very much. And I wanted to expand on that with Yara and ask if you could maybe tell us what you think is distinctive about the activities that you run at UTS under the umbrella of internationalisation at home. What's the secret of your success, and how do you think your students have benefited?
Sure. So as Simon mentioned, UTS 2027 strategy includes the goal of sending 50% of students overseas. However, we look at this number quite innovatively and differently. So there are 4 different streams of internationalization activities. First 3 streams: Bachelor of International Studies, Global Exchange, and Global Short Programs. They are focusing on sending students overseas. However, 4th stream, which is called Build Global Leadership, this is on-campus, extracurricular, free program for all students, domestic and international, that provides workshops and events with the aim to help students become global leaders and global citizens. So last year, we launched Think Global Summer, which included different workshops under Build umbrella and also virtual global short programs. So we had a hybrid model in capturing students' interests and provided them different opportunities what they can do while the borders are closed, and also achieving internationalization objectives at home on campus. So we've noticed increased interest from different cohorts of students, especially from students from equity backgrounds. They're much more engaged, and these opportunities provide them different avenues and different options of obtaining digital skills, obtaining cross-cultural communication skills, and overall global mindset.
Brilliant, thank you. And maybe you can share with us if you've had any challenges in the internationalisation at home space.
Absolutely. Firstly, UTS, as Simon mentioned, is quite a large university. somewhat centralized. However, different faculties they have their own strategic goals, their own agenda. So for us at International Office, it's quite challenging sometimes to explain the importance of internationalization at home, especially to explain our goal and our strategic actions that we are planning to undertake to reach this 50% target. So working together is a key to success for us. Also, we understand that, for example, for our academic colleagues, international objectives might not be a priority. So, of course, in order to achieve the goals, we need to work together and to think of how we can help both sides to benefit, professional staff and academic staff. When we think of our different students, as well for international students and domestic, how we can combine them in the same room and how we can actually encourage the learning that's happening in between these different groups. Because we really believe that they can learn so much from each other, and it's part of, again, internationalization at home. There is no need sometimes to travel 1,000 kilometers to try Malaysian food. Sydney is such a multicultural city, and UTS is located in the heart of Sydney, so it's really benefits our students as well.
Yes, so it's trying to make clear to students and colleagues across the institution that yes, global mobility is important, but we have this rich resource on campus which enables us to bring people together. And sometimes it's interesting, isn't it, how it's sometimes challenging to explain to people how they should be looking at ways to unlock that resource. It's easier sometimes to explain about an opportunity to go overseas, which is actually more time-consuming or challenging. Obviously, still a great experience, but just making the most of the resources around us.
Absolutely, and it's more traditional viewpoints, I guess, on global mobility or learning abroad. And that's why changing mindset is so challenging for us as well when we try to expand the definition and provide different options to students from virtual programs to build globally.
Thank you, Yara. So I want to turn back to you now, Simon, and ask, how well do you think internationalisation at home is supported by the national higher education agenda in Australia?
I think that the higher education framework here is fairly supportive, I suppose, of mobility experiences. And we have a number of government programs that make going overseas possible. And our loans program can very easily be extended for students can take up to 2 loans to do an international experience. And the government is really supportive of sending students in particular to the Indo-Pacific region because of the ties and potential for business and future economic growth from doing that. I suppose if you really wanted to get down to internationalization at home, may not necessarily be on anyone's radar really, but UTS certainly has as an important thing. As I mentioned, those graduate attributes are really core to the design of all of our programs. And in fact, when a course is accredited, it needs to have mention of what global attributes students are going to achieve by taking a subject, in addition to our individual programs. There has been, certainly since COVID, we have a program called the New Colombo Plan, and that is a national government program that encourages students to do mobility experiences in the Indo-Pacific. It's $100 million over a 5-year term, and has just recently been renewed into its 2nd term. So it's our Erasmus program, or maybe Turing, I suppose. Yeah. We lobbied the New Colombo Plan when the pandemic hit to be able to use those funds to do virtual experiences. And I suppose it's a little bit of a move to getting on the national agenda internationalization at home. So I suppose broadly there is, it's considered important, but I don't know whether the national framework specifically is supportive. But I think the government is very supportive of getting students interacting and learning abroad broadly.
Thank you. And Simon, you mentioned the challenges of the pandemic. I wanted to come to Yara now and say, or ask, what have you learned about internationalization at home since the pandemic?
Well, there are a number of things that we learned. Firstly, there is definitely a demand from students to continue their global citizenship journey despite borders being closed, and actually it's an opportunity for them to have a look what's on offer on campus and how, again, they can learn from each other, from their colleagues, from staff members. Secondly, we saw this actually as an opportunity for us to do something differently, to innovate, and that's why we launched our virtual global short programs. It's also a great opportunity for us to capture equity cohorts of students and provide different, more sustainable options to programs. As part of the Think Global Summer that we launched in December, we had a cross-cultural competence course offered to all students for free. So it was conducted on campus, virtually, of course, included different workshops and different speaker series. We learned that students obtain different skills. For example, we were assuming that students these days are still, digital natives. They know how to operate in a digital environment. However, our evaluation survey showcased that participating in the programs, they developed much more these digital skills. They learn how to work in teams, how to think of time management more wisely, because they had to communicate with the partners based overseas, so thinking of time zones, thinking of how they can structure their work and communicate, so communication skills improved. So these are a number of outcomes that we found out after running evaluation surveys from students. And again, this is a wonderful chance for us, for our university, to have a local definition of learning abroad and to invest more, I suppose, in on-campus activities, on internationalization at home, and looking more broadly on virtual programming as well.
Thank you. That sounds really exciting. So it's sort of brought a breadth of diversity and opportunity, and hopefully that will be something of enduring benefit, which I think many of us are hoping for the residual benefits of some of the activities we've done since the pandemic. So over to you, Simon, now for a question about next steps in internationalization at home. Do you have any plans for what's around the corner at UTS?
Hopefully, at some point, we'll all actually be able to leave Australia. As you may know, we have very strict border restrictions. It means we're in like a gilded cage here, and it's we're all able to go out and do things. I've been to film festivals and enjoying street parties and things like that. So, so we're looking forward to continuing some of the developments that we've started in the space and not losing the things that we've gained. We want to make our virtual experiences a permanent part and a sustainable part of what we do. We do see that students really have, and we've started teaching back on campus again, the students have really missed actual physical engagement. So, but I think for us, the next stages will be really exploring where we can go with virtual and exploring COIL, Collaborative Online International Learning. It's something that's always been a little bit beyond our reach, but I think as our academics flipped their classes into virtual experiences very suddenly, I think there's a general openness to exploring COIL opportunities. So we're still a little bit in early stages, but some of our virtual short programs that happened, the academics were very pleasantly surprised by the interaction they had with our Indonesian and Indian counterparts, and they pretty much came up with new ways of learning and new experiences, and that actually their experiences compared to physical experiences, the students actually had better interactions with the local students who were somewhat afraid of I suppose largely white Australian students coming as a group, and they were much more interactive in the virtual space. So that was some really interesting learning. So I think we will definitely continue exploring that and using a community of practice that we have for those academics to talk about their experience and the positive outcomes and share that with our teaching and learning committee. will be the cultural intelligence program that we launched for Think Global Summer. We'll be expanding and embedding into our Build program. And we're doing that again over our winter, your summer break. And so tracking that, and potentially we are using a private company to provide that, and potentially maybe building our own experience and then broadening that out so that it ultimately we'd like it to be a core subject or a core component of what everyone does. That requires the powers that be above us to get that signed off. But yeah, so I think there's plenty of excitement that's come out of this interesting time, and it's allowed us to innovate and I think move ahead with making some of these things sustained improvements.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing those insights into your plans for the future. It sounds like an exciting prospect for students and staff at UTS. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you very much. It was wonderful to talk to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.